Choo. So welcome to the Get Busy Livin podcast with the wonderful Jason Snuggs today. And I'm Dr. Scott from Sixth Sense Acupuncture and the Healthy Habits Club. And as I said, we've got an awesome guest today. And thank you so much, Jason, for coming on and chewing the fat. And looking forward to listening to some gold nuggets of information about what you do and how you help people. So thank you very much for coming on, mate, and giving us the time.
Appreciate the invite, Scott. Thank you.
All right, mate. So I'll lead on to the first question. So tell us, Jason, what gets you out of bed every morning?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. I'm not someone who gets out of bed to just go through the motions every day. So I'm a very outcome oriented or achievements driven person, I guess you'd say. I like to, and I guess part of why I do what I do, which we'll get into later on, is to actually help people get more out of their technology. So the short answer to what gets me out of bed is outcomes, helping people, making sure that what they're doing was better than how they were doing it yesterday. That and going to the gym. Those two things tend to get me out of bed most days. So.
All right. So well, thank you for helping the community and because technology is very confusing, especially now with the invitation or invite or what do you call it? Thrust upon technology of AI, artificial intelligence.
AI is changing things quite rapidly for a lot of people, so it's always good having conversations with people about how they can use that and get benefit from it, rather than I guess there's two sides to the AI coin. There's those who are kind of scared of it and want to avoid it and stay away from it, and there's those who can see the benefit and want to embrace it. So I'm certainly the latter school of thought. It's here to stay. We've got to get used to it. It's getting more and more powerful. So how do we leverage it to help ourselves make our lives easier and better, and get more out of it every day.
So that leads me to my next question. So what got you into IT? What got you into information technology? Yeah.
I didn't take your typical route into IT. I kind of fell into it sideways. I was working for a large mobile crane heavy haulage company at the time, and I was, back in the day, I was the guy in the office who knew computers. And being a heavy haulage and crane business, they were fairly salt of the earth, blue collar kind of guys, and tech really wasn't their thing. So the fact that I knew a little bit kind of stood out. And the company I was working for had done 21 acquisitions and gone public in the 5 years prior, and they were in the midst of rolling out a national scheduling and operational system for the business. And the guy said, "Jace, can you look after this for Queensland?" I said, "Sure, okay, why not?"
Yeah, no
idea what I'm doing. Yeah, why not?
Let's dive in.
Complete disaster. I should probably write a book on it because it's a perfect example of what not to do. Basically, because it was 21 different companies, but it's split by state. Everyone from every state basically put in their request list, and they said to the developers, "Build that," which of course was never going to work. And then on top of that, the integration to the finance system didn't work for the first 4 months after go live. So the whole thing was just it was an absolute textbook what not to do. And then not long after that, they were looking for someone to work with the national IT manager, because I only had one person internally for IT at that point in time. A lot of it was outsourced. And I said, "What about me? Can I do that?" No idea why I asked, but I did. And to everyone's surprise, they went, "Okay." So that's how I actually started working in IT. I still didn't have a clue what I was doing. So then I started working on the back end of that scheduling system we'd implemented and some other bits and pieces and helping people out. And then the IT manager, about 6 months after I came across and started working with her, up and left. So now I'm running IT for a $400 million publicly listed national company, and I've got no clue. So baptism of fire as far as how I got into IT. And then from there, probably about 6 months after that, and with plenty of egg on my face, they realised I probably wasn't cut out for the role I was in. So they brought in a CIO, and fortunately, he and I got on like a house on fire. So I was based in Brisbane at the time. He was based in Melbourne. He said, "Do you want to come to Melbourne?" I don't think he finished the sentence before I said yes. So I relocated down to Melbourne. Was down there for 12 years. And we spent the next 7 years after I went down there integrating all of these companies nationwide. So we implemented new laptops and endpoint devices, new security, new infrastructure, new operational systems, new finance systems, HR payroll. We went through the whole company top to bottom and redid everything. With some other people on the team, it wasn't just the two of us. But
I was going to say you would have had
a good team working through all of that. Yep. I got some really good mates out of it that people I still keep in touch with to this day. But yeah, we had a really good, because I wasn't a finance person, I was the IT person. So I was looking after the tech side. We had someone out of the business who was sensational from an organizational project management, understanding all the operational side of the business. We had a sensational finance person on the team, and we had some others along the way as well. But the core team of 4 or 5 of us spent a good 6 or 7 years integrating all of that. So that taught me a hell of a lot in a really short time. And that was kind of what set me up. So I ended up leaving there after 10 years as the head of IT. With a heap of experience around mergers and acquisitions, infrastructure, endpoints, applications, the whole box and dice. The bit I missed in all of that is that I'm not a techie person. I haven't gone through the the level 1 support desk type role and then get skilled up in networking or security or anything like that, and then move into skill up technically and then move into a management role. I kind of swung into the side straight into a management role. With all of that acquisition stuff. But the flip side of that is that I've got a lot of experience in understanding business requirements and talking to business people and being able to translate what the business wants into technology terms, which is a big dark area for a lot of people. I talk to a lot of businesses and business owners and business managers, and the two things that keep coming up is that IT is basically a black box. They don't know what it does. They don't know how it works. When you think about most business managers and business owners, they know they're experts in what they do, what their business does, but they also know a little bit about sales, a little bit about finance, because they have to run all these different parts of the business. But IT for everybody, for most people I talk to, seems to be this black box. And a lot of the times, people don't want to look silly or ask dumb questions. So they don't want to know about it either. So there's this awkwardness between what IT is doing and what the business is doing. And IT people are the exact opposite. They're great technically, have no clue about business typically. I'm generalizing, but
yeah, I understand.
They're great network engineers or security engineers or whatever their specialty happens to be, but they don't have any context or understanding about how that applies to what the business does on a day-to-day basis. So I guess that's a bit about how I started and what happened and some of the fun along the way, because we certainly had some fun workshops talking to people in the business about about what they needed and what they wanted and what they thought they wanted and what they could realistically do and all those sorts of things. So yeah, fun times. It was an interesting baptism of fire when I jumped into IT, that's for sure.
Well, that's right. You're going to have to talk, because if you're talking about 21 different companies over different states, then you're talking about different regulations, especially around businesses. And number 2 is that I suspect they weren't all the same category of business as well. Is that right?
A lot of them were quite similar. Though. A lot of them were crane companies, but crane companies are typically quite small. So you had mum and dad operations, or operations with like less than 10 people, having sold into this what is now a national, significantly sized, publicly listed organization. So the change from being a little local business into part of a national company is huge for people who haven't had experience in that space. So there was a lot of that went on as well. And when you've been running your business for 10 years and then you sell it to someone else, but you're still in the business, you still have a lot of personal attachment, all of that. So some of the simple things like fleet management, where we would say, look, we need a crane up in Mackay and we've got 2 sitting around in Melbourne that aren't doing much. We're going to ship them up because we can get more work out of them there. Melbourne turns around and go, no, that's my crane. You can't have that. It's like, well, no, you're no longer one business. You're part of this larger entity. So there was a whole bunch of cultural stuff that had to go on, and a lot of change management and people side of things as well, which is a really good part of the experience. Because when you go through the normal, I guess you'd call it the normal IT progression, you don't get a lot of that experience and opportunity to have those conversations with people. So lots of fun.
Absolutely.
And yeah, regulations, and a lot of it was mining based as well in remote areas.
Oh, I suppose. Yeah, I'm thinking that. I'm thinking it's, and mainly coastal areas, because most coastal areas, they build high rises. So they need.
Yeah, no, we weren't doing a lot of construction. There was a tower crane business in Melbourne, and there was one crane business in Brisbane. I think there was one crane business in Melbourne or near Melbourne, but the rest of it, and there was one in Perth. But most of the assets were all regionally based around mining. So it'd be out in Moranbah in the middle of central Queensland, or Mackay up there, or Port Hedland up in WA, and Newman, which is
WA.
4 hours east of Port Hedland.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And oh wow, okay. So
I've been to some fun locations.
Very remote, I suspect. Good fishing.
Oh yeah. And then from an IT point of view, you've got, because we're talking, 2006, 2008, 2010 here. Connectivity in those areas at that time was not great.
Probably.
You've got 5 people in a dodgy office trying to work basically on an internet connection that's the equivalent of a can and string. So yeah, all sorts of fun trying to make things work. So, but no, look, good challenges, opportunities I would never have otherwise had. So yeah, it was super cool.
And and that comes back to, you had to talk to different departments as well. And that's what you're saying, is that you got to understand the different parts of the business.
Yep.
Not only just the face of the business, which is the cranes and operation of, but also the finance of the marketing of, the sales of.
Yep.
You would have got an insight into all of that.
So when we did the finance system as an example, we one of the things we did was sat down and we redesigned the general ledger structure for the business. That's not something an IT person typically gets involved in. All of these things about what should be at GL level and what should be accounted for in other ways or reported, in other methods. Whole bunch of understanding across different divisions that you wouldn't normally get from a pure IT point of view.
Absolutely. And how do you market a crane? How does that happen? Because I suspected it'd have to be a target market, but like you were saying, I suppose it would be the mining industry. That's what you're mainly.
Yeah, a lot of it is tender and contract work. So not marketing as such, but it's response to tenders. A lot of it's relationships with larger enterprises, so your BHPs and the like, your BMAs up here in Queensland, those sorts of companies, larger construction companies if you're doing that sort of work. One part of the business had travel towers, so relationships with Optus and those sorts of things to go and erect mobile phone towers or repair mobile phone towers and all those sorts of things. So it was more relationship than marketing as such. I think the most I've seen marketing is on LinkedIn, and it's we've done this or we've done that. Actually, there was a post I think I saw yesterday where they were talking about their half-year results. So marketing's a bit of a different setup in that corporate or enterprise B2B space, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah, because like you said, you're mainly servicing tenders, so you'd have to you'd have to have a close relationship with those bigger companies, like you said, BHP, Adani, and the massive companies. So and also you'd have to work alongside with like Caterpillar and those sort of industries as well, because they have to service the cranes as well.
Yeah, Terex and Franna were the two big suppliers for us there. But yeah, even when you think about all the maintenance that goes into them, all the lubricants and spare parts and all that sort of stuff, we've got to make sure you've got all of that. And again, because you're in remote locations, you can't just duck down the street and pick it up. So the supply of all of these things is fun as well.
All right, I'd like to. I'll bring it on. So, thanks, Alex. Thanks for coming on, brother. You're from Boston. Yeah, well, hopefully it's not too cold there at the moment. It's probably coming into spring for you guys. So yeah, hopefully it's not too hot or cold. So yeah, thanks for coming on, Alex, and joining us. So appreciate it, brother. So and that's basically, so what all that experience, because it sounds like yeah, you got to learn about a lot of different things. So did you what was the turning point for you to say, hey, I don't need to be in that industry anymore. I can go out on my own and do my own thing to help small businesses?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of bits in that one, right? There was all of that experience built up with Boom, and then I moved on and did some work. You mentioned Caterpillar, so I did some work with those guys, and then did some work in construction as well before I moved across to a mining company up here in Queensland. And the themes are really pretty consistent. That chasm or gap between what IT is doing and what the business is doing just kept repeating in my head. Everywhere I went, IT is doing a lot of fantastic, awesome things with technology, but that in no way connected with what's going on with the business. And likewise, the business has got all these fantastic goals and strategic roadmaps and plans for the next 3 years and stuff to grow the business or do acquisitions, whatever it is they want to do. IT's got no clue about it, and they don't know what they're doing to actually support or help the business achieve those strategies. So that gap kept coming up, and then fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not sure how you'd take it, but I've reported to a lot of CFOs in my time, and the fact that
hold on. What's the CFO? What's the
Chief Financial Officer?
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Yep. I know some good ones too, but typically they look at they're focused on the dollars, which that's their primary role, which is great. But what people tend to miss with a lot of IT is that the benefits are second order. So if you go and implement a new warehouse management system, as an example, and your stock on hand drops from 120 million bucks to 100 million bucks on hand, from a cash flow point of view, you're 20 million bucks better off. Now that system may cost you 100 grand, a couple hundred grand a year. When it comes time to do the IT budget, the question usually is, what's that 100 or 200 grand on your budget for? Because the cost typically sits within the IT budget, but the benefit sits in another part of the business. So it's making sure that the common gap is just people understanding what IT are delivering for the business and the benefit it provides, not just looking at the bottom line. Because in a lot of cases, not always, but in a lot of cases, you'll have some IT, from a flat black and white point of view, you'll have some IT budgetary increase, but that should be more than compensated by benefits in the other part of the business. If it's not, you're doing your IT wrong, because you shouldn't be doing IT projects for the sake of it. You've got some purely technical stuff around security and stuff that you need to do, but most IT projects should be business-led with business outcomes that provide a bigger outcome to the business than it costs. If you're doing that, you're doing all right. But those two things, I guess, were kind of the gap. That gap between what IT is doing for the business and where the business is going, that chasm, and then looking at people understanding what the IT budget and benefits actually look like. So from that, I kind of just said, look, there's a gap here that we can fill. And that gap, I guess, is two things. It's helping people, number one, understanding IT. So that is in plain layman's terms, not technical jargon and acronyms and everything, which people love to do to confuse everybody. Just tell people what systems they've got, what they're doing, how they help the business, and provide a bit of education for people, I guess, so that they've got that understanding and knowledge about what IT is doing for them, because it's different for each business as well. Like one you say a CRM, well, there's like 100 CRMs you could use. You talk about finance system, there's another 100 of those. So the different no two businesses will have the exact identically same IT setup. So giving people an understanding of what their IT setup is and how it's working and what it's doing for them. And then the second part is then with that knowledge, looking at the business and go, well, how can we use IT strategically? How can we leverage the tools that we've got? And if the tools we've got are the wrong ones, then let's replace them with the right ones. But if we've got tools that are working, how can we leverage them as much as possible so that we maximize the value out of them and use them in such a way that they're actually aligned with and supporting what the business is trying to do and where it's trying to grow. So and I guess the other point of that. Sorry, one more thing quickly. The other benefit we do is because I look at it from a business perspective and their specific IT perspective, it's independent and unbiased. A lot of people will look at their MSPs or their IT providers for what their IT strategy is and how it should all be working. And those strategies, coincidentally, usually tend to align with the products and services that those providers sell. So the benefit I've got is that I look at it from that specific business's perspective, so it's completely unbiased and independent.
Yeah, gotcha. I'll just bring Alex back on again. So he stated my background is in supporting tools as a software engineer. People assumed I was IT.
Yep. Yeah, look, and I get the same thing, because you say to people you're in IT and, they think you can do anything, pretty much anything that has power attached to it. So, that's a good example. He's a software engineer, so he can build and develop some software, but ask him to go and swap out a server in a data center or reconfigure a firewall, probably not his wheelhouse. Both IT things. It's a bit like asking a mechanic to do some electrical work or something, because they're both cars. It's not the same thing. So, and I'm the same. I'm business alignment, strategy, making sure things are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Don't ask me to configure a firewall. I can look at a configured one and understand the rules and what it's doing, but don't ask me to build it from scratch. It will be a disaster. So yeah, like anything, I mean, you look at accountants, there's tax accountants, there's corporate accountants, and lawyers are the same. They're split. IT is no different. But again, because I think because a lot of people don't necessarily understand IT, coming back to that core point, they hear you in IT and think you can do anything with anything. It'd be nice if it was that way, but it's just not. Yeah.
I get it. I understand. Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah. Like you said, the mechanic is a good example. You get your auto mechanic, your steering specialist, then you've got tire fitters. That's all they do is just tire fit. Then
exactly.
Then you got people who just do axles. That's all they do. Nothing else. That's all they do is axles.
Yep.
You want to. The brake specialist. There's so many specializations. It's the same with cabinet making. Cabinet making is no different. You've got there's some guys that are out there still that can do the traditional wood type of cabinet making, and then there's the new versions where they use gyprock, and it's all basically like a conveyor belt.
Yep.
So that's what what one person may learn about that part of the conveyor belt, but another person may not. So Yeah, and then if the company's smart enough, they'll try and cross educate them, so then they both know.
Absolutely, yeah, you cross skill. So yeah, and look, I think to looping back to your comment earlier about small business, I think this is where small business start to struggle because they don't have big budgets, they don't have a big team, but they've still got the same issues. So they need storage, they need security, they need laptops and their end user devices working for people. So how do you do that when you're a 3-person organization? And that's quite a challenge. So I've done a lot of work with thinking about how do we set up a simple but effective toolkit, basically. So you might see some of that stuff rolling out shortly, but if I get around to it. But I've been talking to a few people about how we do stuff in that space because it is a challenge for small businesses. And when you look at some of the legislation we've now got around cybersecurity and the requirements that directors have to meet, people are kind of being forced to, whether they want to or not, make sure this stuff's working properly. Because if they get breached, ignorance, I guess, is not a defense anymore. So you've got to make sure you've at least made. Well, we can get onto the matrix and then go back to all that stuff. It's always good fun. Look, the requirements around the IT requirements, particularly around cybersecurity, are getting tougher and tougher for businesses. So it's they're things that people are going to have to be aware of. And you can't say, "Oh, look, I didn't think I was going to get hacked." You have to at least make the attempt to make sure you're as secure as you realistically can be.
Yeah, because I remember someone did a presentation. It's probably at BX. And they're into cyber security, and they said that thieves, if they can't get into your house, so it's like, think of security of your house. If thieves can't get into your house because of you put screens in, or you've got cameras up, or you've got sufficient lighting so people can see what they're doing, trying to break in, well, then all they're going to do is go, too hard basket, we'll just go to the next person. So that's exactly the same analogy with cybersecurity. So if they can't hack you straight away, all they'll do is they'll go to the next person and try and hack them.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that a lot of people don't realize these days is that it used to be you would be targeted. So the old adage of, "Oh, why would someone hack me?" used to be perfectly applicable. These days, so much of the hacking is automated. They don't care who you are. They're just looking for a way in. And if you've got a vulnerability there that they can exploit, an automated package or a bot or a piece of software or malware is going to come along and do it and get you. And it's not personal. You're not targeted. It's not anything. You just happen to be vulnerable, and they found you. So And the unfortunate side of cybersecurity these days is that on our side, we have to be fully secure and protected and right 100% of the time to stop it all. Whereas the cyber criminals, they just need to find one little glitch in the armor and they're in.
Yeah.
And it's a numbers game. They automate this stuff. They do they just wait for a hit so they can send out hundreds of thousands or millions of probes and hits and whatever. And if they get 10 back, they're doing all right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they can hack the Pentagon. If they can hack Medibank Prime. Well, they did. They hacked Medibank Prime.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's usually the people factor in some of that stuff as well. That's despite everyone's intentions, people sometimes just make a mistake.
Yeah. And like you said, they only need a sliver. They only need a little crack.
They only need one little chink in the armor, and they're in.
Yeah.
So, it's not an easy gig. Certainly on the cybersecurity side these days. And AI is beefing up capability on both sides of that.
Yeah.
So
that's what I thought. But and I mean, but that goes both ways. Yeah, like you said, just said that AI can also help you as well with that.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
At the end of the day, it's another tool. You know, it's like a knife. You can use a knife to cut an apple, or you can use a knife to stab someone. You can use AI for good. You can use AI to go hacking people.
Well, that's what. Yeah, I can see the potential. I can see the potential, but that's the only problem is we're human beings and we make mistakes.
Absolutely.
And yeah. So, what was I going to say? Did you want to talk some more about that, about AI? Did you want to go into that side of things, or?
Oh yeah, we can talk about AI for a little bit. The interesting thing, I think that some people tend to maybe not miss, but maybe not realize as much. At the end of the day, it is another tool to use to help your business. And that tool requires certain things to be in place for it to work properly. Now, and the key component of that is data. So if you're looking at putting AI into your business, the first thing, probably the few core things I would look at is making sure you know how your business works, because that will help you identify where AI can potentially come in and help you. If you know your processes and your operations and how things tick along, you'll know where the bottlenecks are and where the issues are, and then you can think about, well, okay, how can AI help me with this? The second part of it is data, because AI is reliant on data. So when you're looking at how you're going to use AI, and a simple use case for this is an agent that replies to queries about your HR policies and procedures, or your company's entire policies and procedures. Now, if those policies and procedures are spread all over the place in a complete mess, there's multiple versions of them from the last 10 years, and you feed all of that into the agent, how good do you think the answers are going to be that it gives you? Pretty average. If you clean up that data and give it a refined, up-to-date, current data set, how good do you think those answers are going to be now?
Yeah.
Pretty spot on. And this is the unsexy stuff that people don't like to talk about. They just want to go, yeah, put agents in and use AI and it's awesome. And you need to do the grunt work behind the scenes to make sure you use it properly. Otherwise, you risk getting 50% of what it could be out of it. And I guess the third pillar that I kind of think of when I look at implementing AI and using AI is your people. Bring them along on the journey. There's no point giving them an awesome AI agent if they don't understand what it does or how to use it. So train them, help them understand where you think as a business AI is going to help you go. Bring them on the journey with you. And sometimes the simplest thing to do, a lot of people look at it and go, what am I going to use AI for? If you don't know, sometimes the simplest thing to do is to get a few Gemini or ChatGPT accounts out there and say, go for it. Go and use it, have a play, see what you can think about it. Set some rules around what data, if you've got any data that you are very protective of, and if you've got some personally identifiable information, probably make it clear to people not to put that into your AI tool, but encourage people to use AI, ask questions of AI. That's sometimes the best way to go. Just have a chat. Literally have a chat with chat. Tell it what you do on a daily basis. Tell it what your job role looks like. Ask it to tell you how it can help you. And it will come back with a whole bunch of suggestions, and you just keep evolving from there. And then, as the maturity grows, you can look at agents, and then you can look at vibe coding things and whatever, as you kind of get more and more complex and advanced, I guess. But bring your people on the journey, understand your data, understand your operations, and find a good way to try it. If you can do those sorts of things, you'll probably find some success.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, because the problem is, especially Gen X and baby boomers, we use AI as like Google.
Yep.
You're requesting information instead of asking questions like, those deeper questions about how can I make my business better.
Yep. I mean, a few simple examples. I used it to help me draft some emails over the last couple of days. I've had conversations about hobbies and after school activities for my daughter. I don't mention her by name or anything. I just say, her age and whatever and what she's into and stuff. I'm sure Google's probably figured it out by now anyway. But I keep as much personal information out of there as I can, but I will ask a lot of questions and, drafting emails, drafting documents. And if you don't have any confidential information, sometimes analyzing spreadsheets for some extra insight or documents. Comparing documents is another one I've done recently. I had some legal documents that I had to, version 3, version 4 of contracts. Would have taken me 3 or 4 hours to compare the two of them manually. I threw it into GPT because there was nothing there I was concerned about from a data privacy point of view. I had it analyzed in like 5 minutes. Wow. Those sorts of things. It's incredibly useful, incredibly powerful. But you do need to think about primarily whether you're putting, what you're putting into it and whether you're happy for that information to be there. Because as much as people like to say, or they try and say that, if you use a business account, it won't be used by the model, just assume it will be at some point. It's a bit like posting on Facebook or social media. It's out there forever. So I think if you take the same approach to AI tools like Gemini and ChatGPT, and if you have that in mind and you don't put in anything that you're not concerned about, then have fun and see what you can do. I find the best way is ask questions, because then you're not putting in any information either. Ask questions, have a conversation. Tell it about what you do, ask it how it can help. That sort of conversation gets people off and running without having to put in data or anything like that.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Because it can figure it out. That's can work out who you are, what you do, and but like you said, more generalized questions. That's what you said.
Oh, the way they track you on the internet these days, I'm pretty sure Google knows most things about me anyway.
Yeah, and that's the bit I don't like. That's the bit I don't like, because who are they selling it to? That's what I'm concerned about. But anyway,
anyone and everyone is generally the answer.
Yeah, and any socials, it's all the same thing. Well, I mean, Elon Musk came out and said that. He said, when I took over X or Twitter, he said they were selling it to everyone and anyone who's the highest bidder, basically. And
I mean, the data collection companies in the US are incredibly effective at linking bits of data that you wouldn't even think about. So
I remember I was looking for a certain car, and I was just talking about it, and I had Facebook open at the time, and guess what happened? I was getting all these marketing about certain cars. I'm like, I didn't even go searching, like through a Google or anything like that. I didn't. So they're definitely.
I mean, you do one search in a browser, and then your Facebook ad feed is full of the same kind of posts.
Yeah.
So
well, it's
they're incredibly good at it.
Same.
Yeah,
LinkedIn's the same. What's it? Instagram and X. They still send the stuff. You think how, and then you get emails. That's when it gets really scary. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their business model is advertising, so they're incredibly effective, and they've had lots of years to perfect targeting and pulling information from all sorts of places and combining it and drawing conclusions. So
absolutely. And that was another thing. The phishing is getting really like they're getting really technical now. Email the other day from in Australia we have MyGov, so
Yep.
and it's it's a message from MyGov, it's got the link to, and I thought this isn't right, so I checked the email address. So that's a tip for everyone. If you
Yep.
want to know if it's spam or not, you just check the email address. Where's it from? And it was a dodgy old Gmail account. I thought,
Yep.
nah,
Yeah,
this
I've
is
seen plenty of those.
some sort of
Yeah.
bot.
The
Some sort of
really
bot or
tricky
something like
ones.
that.
Yeah, the really tricky ones are where they register a similar domain name. So if you've got like Boom, they might register a domain that's Born, Boorn. So when you look at it quickly, the R and the N look like an M. So they do those sorts of fun. Yeah, those sorts of things get really, really tricky. And if if you're ever not sure about those things, back out and contact them or go directly to their website and log in as if you would normally. Don't click the link in the email. Yeah,
absolutely. It's getting this next level. I was like, wow, that's they're trying to imitate the government,
and it's only going to keep getting harder. They will keep finding more and more ways. So
yeah, that's right. All right,
and
so
because
tell
they
us
can
about how you
quickly. Yep.
Yeah, exactly right. So tell us how you've helped a business turn their cash flow around, turn their business around.
Ooh, let's give you a good example. Oh, that's one I hadn't prepped for, mate. Trying to think of who have we done stuff with. I'll try and keep it recent. I can go back to some old stuff, but I'll try and keep it a bit more recent. I think one was working with a company recently, and they'd grown significantly over the last few years. But the way they'd grown, it was like 50%, 30%, 30% with the last 3 years. So it was, the business had overall like comfortably more than doubled in the last few years. And obviously, when you've got that rapid rate of growth, your IT keeping up to it is a bit of a challenge. So, and because they'd grown from like a 10-head small organization, I guess now into a 30+ head, decent sized enterprise, and they're based up here in Brizzy. They didn't have the systems and tools in place, and they relocated offices as well, actually. And in the new office, they had 2 Wi-Fi points for 20 or 30 odd people, and the switching and the hardware that they had at the site was 15 years old. But construction type company, so not a huge budget. So we worked with them to put together a bit of a plan to refresh that infrastructure, get the Wi-Fi working properly for them, get them into the new office working properly, and get them running, and then do a bit of a review on what their security needed to be, because they'd gone from like a small organization up to a medium-sized business. They had no firewall. They had very little by way of security. So we put together some pieces of the puzzle there for them as well, and ultimately they ended up in a position where they were able to work more effectively because the Wi-Fi was working better. They had a better security setup, so they had a bit more confidence in all of that. And some of the bottlenecks they were having around just people having to wait for things to complete because they didn't have the network capacity or the internet capacity, because they'd added on so many extra people. Just freeing up those sorts of things, and then starting the conversation about, well, what does offshore look like for you as well, because they were looking at doing some of that. So that changes the setup of your IT once you start moving out of a single location. And you've got people working in other locations or remotely. That changes your security footprint and architecture quite a bit. So yeah, we did a fair bit of stuff there and helped them out. So that's one example of the kind of thing we do.
So you basically help them scale up through their IT. That's basically
Yeah, we kind of there's probably three types of customers that we typically see come our way. One is of that nature where they've grown, and they've gotten to a point where they need to reconsider how things are working because what used to work now doesn't. And then we'll come in and have a chat and sort of point them in the right direction. And again, because we're business focused and independent, we can come up with something that works specifically for their environment, what they've got, and where they're planning on going. The other one is there'll be a sudden change, I guess, has occurred as opposed to they've just grown over the last couple of years. So they might have done an acquisition or something of that nature. And again, they find themselves in a position where they need to have a look at what's going on and how to integrate that business, or it's forcing a rethink over, security architecture because they've now got multiple locations or something like that. So an acquisition or expansion or something like that. The other one is the fun one that you never want to get the call for, and that's usually if there's been an incident and they're like, "Shit, what do we do now?" And sort of we can help there steady the ship a little bit. Put some stuff in place, hopefully get them working again, depending on what they had in place from a backup point of view and those sorts of things. But then again, sort of realign that path going forward to try and hopefully do whatever we can do to make sure that sort of thing doesn't happen again. But unfortunately, in a lot of cases, what we tend to see is people don't understand what they need to do from a security point of view until they're bitten.
Yeah.
Because it's an unnecessary cost until it's necessary, but it's already too late at that point.
Yeah, that's
security is an interesting one. Looping back to what we were talking about at the start, because you spend in some cases a lot of money on security, and if it's all doing its job, you don't hear anything. So you then get into conversations of, why are we paying for that?
Yeah.
You're paying for that for exactly this, to not hear anything.
That's right.
But it's logical human nature to say, well, if I'm not hearing anything, do I actually need it? So you end up having cyber's an area where you get some interesting conversations because you want there to be silence, but it can be difficult to figure out how much you need to spend or what you need in place to get the right level of silence. So there's always this technology versus commercial versus operational triangle that you're trying to find the optimal spot for.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, just give us one more. Is there anyone else that you can think of that sticks out that you've helped?
Oh, that's probably the main one. I think the other, we've done some work with another company, but a lot of that was around processes and procedures and improving things internally. So again, they'd grown quite significantly. And as a result of that growth, I guess the size of customer they were going after had changed. But obviously, when you start to step up and look at the larger customers, they've got some more stringent requirements around documentation and reporting and processes and procedures and those sorts of things. So we had to redesign and re-implement a lot of that stuff for them, so that they could then comfortably sit in front of these larger customers and go, yes, this is how we do it. This is what we do. This is the reports that you see, and so on and so forth. So, and there are a couple other people on the team who helped me out with that one. But going back to all of the stuff we did earlier with the mergers and acquisitions when I started in IT, sitting down and talking to people about how their business works is my kind of fun. I love doing that stuff and finding out how people's business operates and back to your first question, what gets them out of bed in the morning and gets them excited, and how can IT help with all of that stuff and make their lives easier and get them have their week finish at lunchtime on Wednesday instead of Friday afternoon and all those sorts of things that we want to try and do as business owners. And look, there's probably a few. There's a few small businesses around the place that I've given advice to. I wouldn't say our customers, but I'm the sort of person who's always happy to have a chat. If people got a question, shoot me, let me know. I'm happy to help, and that sort of stuff doesn't always turn into business for us. But there's plenty of people I've had a coffee with, or lunch, or met at a BX meeting and said, "Hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that?" And helped out that way as well.
Cool. All right, mate. I'll move on to the third question. So, unless there's something else you want to talk about on your business.
No, look, I think we've covered most of that. So, and I've probably answered most of your third question as well, I think. But let's go.
I was just thinking that. Normally that's what happens. Normally that's what happens. So, tell us, who's your ideal client? Who's the person you like to help the most?
Yeah, I think that we tend to see those three kind of groups where they've grown quickly, or they've had something major happen, from an acquisition or a new office or something like that, or they've had an incident occur. So we kind of see those sorts of things. Typically, they are a good-sized business or even a medium-sized enterprise. They've got a bit of an IT team in place, but probably not the ideal IT team. They might a bit like how I started. They might have that one person in the office who knows computers, and they've been looking after their IT, but now they're at a stage where that doesn't fit anymore. And usually they've got, and this is back to the people that we were helping last year as well. That person, they usually want them to be doing some other stuff that's probably more important to the business. So it's it's being able to have those conversations about working out where the most value is for internal as well as outsourced opportunities to get the most out of their business processes and how IT can support that. But yeah, usually a larger size business. But I think one thing I've probably noticed, as we touched on earlier, is that there's a lot of small businesses out there who are kind of in the dark when it comes to tech. So there's a couple of things in the pipeline to try and help the smaller businesses and startups, get off the ground in the right way, rather than trying to clean up the mess later on. Because if you start right, it's a lot easier to maintain it going forward than coming in year 3 or 4 when you've got a mess that you've got to clean up. The bill tends to be a little bit bigger. So yeah, if we can do some stuff in the startup and early stage business space, that'll be interesting as well.
All right, brother. Very good. And I'll go on to the last question. So, what ideas or information would you give to provide lifelong longevity?
This has been a fun one for me because I think, as I mentioned before we started this morning, I've had surgery in the last 4 weeks. It's the second hit of surgery for me in the last 4 months, and pretty much everyone in my household has had surgery in the last 12 months. So health and well-being is very much forefront of mind at the moment. There's the usual stuff: eat well, exercise. I tend to go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. That's kind of my happy place. That's where I try and de-stress and wind down. Things like having goals, having something you'd be working towards. I know you're pretty strong in the manifestation piece, those sorts of things. Good support from your partner, families, and friends as well is all important. They're probably, I guess, the typical things that everyone would rattle off. I think maybe not so common is the journaling. That's one I've been thinking about going back to. I did that for a little while, maybe 12 months ago, and found it useful, but it's kind of dropped off. So I'd be keen to get your thoughts on some of this too. And I had a daily, probably wouldn't call it a manifestation, but a set of reminders about who I am and the type of person I want to be that I would run through. So thinking about going back to some of that stuff as well. The quirky one that's a bit left field that I'll throw out to people is in the other office here. We've actually got a massage chair, and it's a full-on proper massage chair. The legs move independently and all sorts of stuff. I love that thing. I'll sit there and do either 2 or 3 20-minute sessions. So I'll be in there for 40 minutes or an hour, and I'll have some meditation music I'll have some meditation going on the headphones and just chill out. And if it's cold, you can crank the heat on the thing, and it's just so good. And for someone who sometimes has a bad back as well, it certainly helps in that space too. But yeah, love the massage chair. It's a bit of a left field one.
Very cool. All right, mate. So there's Jason's LinkedIn profile. It's on the bottom there. So if you want to get in contact with Jason, please contact him. His website's in remission at the moment. It's being rebuilt, so you'll have that up and running very soon.
Yep.
But thank you so much for coming on, mate. And because you didn't bag me too much, I'm going to give you access to my. I'm going to give you access to my health club. So that's the bronze membership. I teach you about EFT, emotional freedom technique, meditation, nutrition, exercise, roadblocks in your mind. I teach you about disc profiling, who you are, Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and Chinese herbal medicine, and also about the 8 leading chronic diseases in Australia, which are killing hundreds of thousands of Australians and every year, and it's getting worse every year. So you get access to all that for free, brother. So yeah, I'll get my associate give you access to that. So thank you very much for coming on today, mate, and appreciate your time and the gold nuggets of information, because it's IT is a mystery and treat it as a present, but
Absolutely. Yeah, look, and the more I can do to help people understand it and, speak in plain English, then the better off everyone will be. But yeah, mate, look, thanks for the invite. It's been fun. I appreciate the access as well. So all the best, everyone. And look, yeah, feel free to reach out, DM me on LinkedIn, reach out anytime. I'm always happy to share my knowledge or answer any questions and do what I can to help people out.
All right. And I'll see you tomorrow at the BX meeting in Chermside at the Ivy and Lark Cafe at 8 o'clock. Is that right? Kick off?
I'll be there. Yep, that's it.
All right, guys.
All right, mate.
Thanks very much, guys. You've been watching the Get Busy Living podcast with the wonderful Jason Snuggs. You have a great day, guys. I'll talk